They say the bell witch never left Adams, Tennessee. Only she learned to whisper through the pines. And sometimes, she invites herself inside. In 1817, in Red River, Tennessee, a farmer named John Bell found a strange creature in his cornfield. It had the body of a dog, the head of a rabbit, an omen. Soon after, the disturbances began, knocking in the walls, scratching under the beds. A voice, disembodied and cruel, that knew every secret, every shame, of the Bell family. This is the documented history, the legend of the Bell Witch. But there is a lesser-known footnote, a story not about the Bells, but about a traveler who arrived decades later. In 1854, a man named Elias Shaw. He was a folklorist, of a sort. He came to write down the legend. To give it a proper end, he rented the old Bell property. He thought himself a scholar. He did not understand. He was a guest. The first night, Elias heard singing, a child's lullaby, drifting from the empty fireplace. It was sweet. It was freezing. He told himself it was the wind. The second night, the whispers started, not from one place, but from all around him, as if the air itself was speaking. They called him by a name his mother used, a name he'd never written down. They said, Elias, gripped by a fear colder than the cellar dirt, began to write, not his scholarly article, but everything the voice demanded. Family secrets, his own regrets. Pages and pages. His hands grew numb. The inkwell never ran dry. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping. The room always smelled of wet earth and gardenia, a scent the real Bell which was said to manifest. He'd see movement in the periphery of a woman's shape in a bonnet, just dissolving into the wall. The temperature would drop so suddenly the glass of water beside him would crack. He was no longer a researcher. He was a scribe, a prisoner. The witch was writing her own book, using his hand. On the seventh night, the voice finally took form, not to show itself, but to show him something. The candle flame stretched thin, turning a sickly blue. In that light, Elias saw the reflections in the window pane, not his own reflection. Dozens of them, the faces of the Bell family, contorted in fear, and behind them, a shifting, dark hollow, where a face should be a mouth opening in a silent scream. The voice spoke one sentence, clear as ice in his ear, and then silence. True silence. The wind outside died, the floorboard still, the pressure in the room vanished. Elias was alone. Elias Shaw was never seen again. A search party found no trail. His journal, his bags, even his coat all left behind. The only clue was a single phrase, carved into the wooden beam above the hearth, in a script that matched none of his own writings. Some say he finally gave the witch what she wanted, an ending to her story. But others who've stayed in that patch of Tennessee woods till late, whisper a different tale. They say if you stand on the old Bell land at twilight, between the barking of the dog and the call of the whirlwind, you can sometimes see a faint light in the window of a house that's no longer there. And if you listen too closely to the rustle of the corn, you might just hear the sound of a quill, scratching endlessly across paper. So mind the stories you seek out. Some legends are still taking applications. The same voice, now with a trace of gravel, as if it hasn't spoken since the last tale ended. A story with no ending needs no headstone, only a blank page, and a new pen. The legend of the Bell Witch is a commodity now, a thrill for autumn nights. But the true story, the one Elias Shaw learned, it doesn't sleep, it waits. In 2019, a graduate student named Claire Vallow came to the Robertson County Archives. She was John Bell's great-great-great-granddaughter, researching her family, and she requested the Shaw box, donated anonymously in 1920, contained the only physical trace of Elias Shaw, not his missing pages, but the personal effects left in his rented room, a pipe, a button, and a small, ceramic inkwell, sealed with wax. Claire was a skeptic. Bloodline or not, she believed in documents, not ghosts. But as she turned the inkwell in the light, she saw something inside. Not dried ink. A dark, viscous liquid that sloshed, thick and slow, and trapped within it what looked like a tiny, pressed flower. A gardenia. That night, her digital voice recorder, left running by the inkwell, captured 3 hours of blank tape, except for the final minute, which held the sound of slow, labored breathing. Not hers. Driven by a compulsion she later could not explain, Claire heated a knife and broke the wax seal. The smell that hit her was not decay. It was wet soil, old parchment, and that cloying gardenia. She peered inside, and the inkwell peered back. That was the first night the witch used her name. The invasion was subtle. A pen would be missing from her cup, found in another room, tip wet. Her own research notes would have additions in a fluid, beautiful hand. She didn't recognize additions that were historically accurate, but unknown to any book. She'd wake with dirt under her fingernails, and her dreams were not dreams. She was sleep writing, Pages and pages in the same cursive that appeared in her notebook. Stories not of the past, but of the present. Secrets of people in town. The mayor's guilt. The librarian's grief. The witch wasn't just history. She was a parasite, feeding on confession. And Claire's bloodline was a direct line to her source. She knew burning it was useless. You can't burn a story. But she had read her own sleep-written pages. One line repeated. The vessel is not the prison. The story is. Break the story. She didn't want to destroy the inkwell. She wanted to break the tale's hold, to write an ending. I am Claire Vallow, blood of John Bell. I release you from this narrative. I give you no more secrets, no more sorrow. Your story ends with me. For a moment, nothing. Then, the fire inverted. The flames didn't die. They turned a deep, void-like black, sucking the light from the clearing, and from the mouth of the inkwell. The dark liquid rose not as a liquid, but as strands of hair, of shadow, of whispered words given form. It wove itself into the shape of a woman, flickering like old film. Claire returned to her life. The phenomena stopped. She published her thesis, a dry, brilliant work that made no mention of ink or whispers. She believed she had won, that she had broken the story. But stories change shape. She never writes creatively, but people bring her their secrets. The grieving, the guilty, they find her, somehow. And when they speak to her, they leave feeling lighter, as if a weight has been confessed. And Claire, she feels a little heavier, a little fuller. She keeps a journal now, not written in ink, but in the clean, digital text of her computer, a file that grows larger every day. She titled it, The Archive. The curse was never the haunting, it was the authorship. So ask yourself who is writing your story. The voice has changed. It is softer, more fluid, almost familiar. It sounds like it's speaking from just beside you, in a quiet room. Every story needs a keeper, and every keeper becomes the library. Claire Vallow lives a quiet life. She works as a freelance archivist. She drinks tea. She never discusses her family history. The phenomena have ceased. The whispers are gone, because now, they have a dedicated channel. This is The Archive. It is not a collection of stories. It is a digestive system. People find her online, in forums for the bereaved, in support groups for the traumatized. They share their unexplained sorrows, their private hauntings. And Claire listens. She asks the right questions. And as they confess, they feel a profound release, a lifting. What they don't feel is the subtle drain, the transfer. For with every confession, a new entry is made in the archive, and a matching journal on the wall fills itself. It's not a melody I wrote. It comes through the static, between radio stations. When I'm half asleep, it's beautiful, and it wants me to play it. Leo's song was a hook, cast by something older than the witch. A tune from the Gray Town, a Cherokee legend of the in-between place. Claire recognized it. The archive recognized it. This wasn't just a ghost. This was a new species of story, a living folktale, seeking a performer. She did her work. She guided Leo, had him hum the melody. She recorded it. As he did, the static in his apartment ceased. The oppression lifted. He thanked her, crying with relief. Claire uploaded the audio file to the archive, and the entity within the static transferred from his world into hers. The archive was no longer passive. It was interactive. It began to suggest. Claire would wake with urges to visit a specific crossroads at dawn, to touch the bark of a lightning-struck oak, to collect a rusted nail from an abandoned church door. Each time, a new journal would label itself, pound 801, the nail of the hindless door, pound 802, the breath before the bridge. She realized the truth. The Bell Witch was never the author. She was a librarian, a furious, cruel one. And Claire, of the bloodline, had applied for the position. The entity didn't possess her. It promoted her. The archive's ultimate goal wasn't to haunt, but to preserve, to save every forgotten, hungry American folktale from extinction by giving them a home, a host. She found the core files, the primal templates, and one, marked, Containment Protocol, the vessel. It was a biography of her. It detailed her childhood, her academic career, her trip to the archive, and it ended with a command line, less than integrate, assume stewardship, await the cataloger greater than, await the cataloger. The story wasn't complete. It was waiting for a reader, a new reader. And then, the doorbell rang. I was a graduate student. She said she'd found the box in a university basement, mislabeled. She said Claire's name was in the accession notes. She wanted to know what it meant. Claire felt the entire wall of journals strain toward the door. The archive had summoned its next chapter. I've been dreaming of this room. And in that moment, Claire understood her final role. She was not the end of the story. She was the preface. The cataloger had arrived. Her job was to pass on the index. Claire did not fight it. A profound peace settled over her. The gardenia stain had reached her collarbone, blossoming into an intricate, beautiful, black tattoo. She was no longer Claire Vallow, descendant, She was the steward. She began to speak, not in her own voice, but in a chorus of Elias' desperation, the wit's cruelty, the lullaby's sweetness, the static's melody. The archive is complete. It holds every sigh, every secret, every knock in the dark that ever shaped this land. It is time to compile the final edition. Anna moved in. The archive had its new, living heart. As for Claire, she left the apartment the next morning. She was seen walking into the Old Bell Woods, carrying nothing. She was smiling when a hiker found her phone, discarded on a path. It was recording. The final file was 1 minute of the pure, clean sound of wind through pines. And underneath, a single, satisfied whisper.